my mindset started to change.
Yeah.
And when your mindset starts to change, your conversation changes. When your conversation changes, the people around you change. And so, man, it's like, it's this waterfall. And by the time I left, I distinctly remember this, right? And I remember being at the door when I was being released. And I'm standing there, I got my crew standing there. They said, hey, man, listen, when you get to where you're going, drop us a line. And I said, man, y'all never hear from me again. I hope y'all have a good life. And dude, I never looked back. I never looked back. That was very intentional, man. When I walked off of that property, that was the last time I was going to step foot on a property like that under those circumstances.
I think that's such a powerful moment right there. Yeah. You were burning that freaking bridge. You're like, nope, let's light the fire to this shit. I ain't going back.
Sometimes you had to burn the bridge, man, to make sure it's not an option going back. There was no other option but to move forward.
Ready to roll, Chris?
Let's roll.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. What we do on this podcast is bringing guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. We're here to make an impact, and we're here to connect, and that is what we do. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, all those amazing things. And if that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but you need to jump on board today. But without further ado, I would love to introduce today's guest, Mr. Chris Hamrick.
What's up, everybody? Yeah. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. It's an honor to have you, dude.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate the invite.
Oh, dude, it's obviously you were connected to me through our mutual friend Chris Knowles,
Yep.
who's a recent guest on here. Chris was amazing, has an amazing story. And then he, kind of told me y'all from the same neighborhood and everything, very similar background, and y'all both been very successful. So I'm here to hear your story, man, and I think it's just really cool. I love when guests bring me someone else to the table. It's always cool because that person's always killer. Then it can lead to more and more. So, dude, I'm just glad to have you here. Thank you for being here,
man. Yeah, definitely glad that Chris put us in touch with each other. He's definitely an impact player, and cool thing about, watching somebody that you grew up with from the same neighborhood, take the steps and, strive for success and actually make something of yourself. When you get to watch that, and experience that live, it's such a motivator, man. So, definitely appreciating putting us together and stuff like that. But excited to see where this things go.
Hell yeah, man. Well, let's roll into it. So real quick, shout out to you, Chris. Thank you, bro. But tell us about what it is that you do today. Just briefly, like, hey, family man, this is my bit, whatever. Just tell us about what it is that you do, and then we're going to take it back.
All right. So, definitely a family man first. Beautiful wife, 3 kids. So I own Protect Crane Solutions.
Okay.
Overhead industrial crane business is what it started out to be. We're in the middle of a transformational period right now. The business model is shifting a little bit, so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
But 10 years in business doing that, a lot of lessons along the way, and just trying to use the experiences and knowledge that I learned to pass along and make an impact on other people. People that's got a dream and something that they're passionate about. So. Just really utilizing those experiences and knowledge this gained to be able to pour into other people.
Hell yeah. How big is your business right now?
So we're actually the smallest we've been in several years.
Oh, okay.
I think we're down to an 11-man team, and we've been up to a 23-man team with 3 companies. And so the natural progression has been, we would grow and expand, and then we refine. And right now we're definitely in a refinement mode. So transformational period, and actually kind of starting to walk away from what we started the business doing, which was crane service work, showing up and fixing things when they were broke. Over the years, we've just we've transformed into a multi-trade company. We've got an electrical division, construction division, and a crane service division. But recently we picked up a lot of distribution, so we're really turning more into a sales organization.
Nice.
And I'm really excited about that because that's the skill sets that I've gained throughout the years is building websites and marketing and, structure and organization and stuff. So it's really guiding us into something that I'm more passionate about than what I started off doing. So that is what's really got me pumped about the next couple of seasons, was the transformation that's in front of us is something I'm really, really passionate about doing.
Oh yeah, man. I'm fired up. I mean, you seem fired up. Good shit.
Absolutely.
Well, I do got a question since it's on my mind. Marketing a business like that, what does that look like? Because, obviously with a brand like this, social media is a way to go. Yeah. would you utilize social media a lot, or are there different routes to take when it comes to that kind of business model?
There's a lot of people that really crush it at social media, but for my industry, that's really not a good spot for me that I found. We run Facebook marketing and all of the other social media platforms and stuff like that. We just really don't generate a lot of opportunity based off of that. Interestingly enough, ours come from a web presence. Which we have a really strong web presence. I spent 8 months last year working with my marketing director to build out our e-com store. And that launched mid-year, and the thing's really taken off. So it's like LinkedIn is better for me than Facebook. So the things that work for a lot of other trades just don't work for me, and it's because my target audience are not on Facebook. These are 45 to 60-year-old, college-educated engineers. They're not on social media. They might be on LinkedIn, but man, they're reading like text and educational stuff. They're not on social media. So I've never generated a lead off of social media off of a Facebook post. So we have them out there, but for me, it's like really digging into SEO and the stuff that drives websites on the back end of the business. I wake up every Saturday and Sunday morning, and I start digging around, with the marketing side of the business. And I absolutely love that. And so the fact that we have all of this new product, we picked up 16 manufacturers toward the tail end in Q4 of last year. That's major, right?
Yeah.
Like that starts to transform us and lead us more towards like a Grainger type business model. With a really strong web presence. And man,
move out of the way, Grainger.
You better watch out. We're coming. So yeah, man, it's the marketing is definitely different. So I've had to learn different stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of the conversations that I have with people that are experts in marketing, it's not really, it's like social media marketing, which I've never found, a way for to kind of plug that into the business model and a successful model.
Interesting.
So
yeah. So, well, it is very interesting. And you talked about LinkedIn, and dude, I wish I would have jumped on that sooner, because there's such a smart way to just connect with professionals that want to do business and different things. And it's such a diverse audience there too, but it is more honed towards that. So I've been really getting on that board quite a bit lately, and, opens up the door to guests. I invited a couple people through LinkedIn and have had them on the podcast already. So yeah, I think just utilizing everything, but I was just curious about that. So anyways, man, well, Chris, now we take it back, man. Now we're sitting around the fire and you're going to tell us your story. So let's take it back, man, to the early days of Chris, young buck Chris, and where you're from, your journey through life and childhood and so on and so forth, influences there and all that stuff. And we'll just roll with it.
So, I grew up an inner city kid, Macon, Georgia, went to inner city schools, everything that comes with that, just being surrounded by, not the best influences and being exposed to a lot of stuff that kids probably shouldn't be exposed to, just seeing it on the street and around, in the community, definitely made an imprint. I was an at-risk youth.
Yeah.
School just wasn't my thing, 7th grade, and that was it. They didn't want no more of me. So school just wasn't my thing, man. I couldn't sit still, couldn't focus, couldn't pay attention.
So you didn't get past, you got booted out at 7th grade?
Yeah, that was it.
And then you stopped going?
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, what'd you do? Wait, like what kind of trouble were you getting into?
All kinds of it, man.
Yeah.
It was nonstop. I could walk through the door and be in trouble, It's like I just wasn't wired for it, man. I wasn't interested in it. And so anyway, at 15 years old, I found myself, kicked out of school, and my cousin called me and said, hey, man, if you ain't going to work, if you're not going to go to school, you work. That's what we do in this family. And I got you a job, so you need to be at grandma's house Monday morning.
Were both your parents in the picture, or like?
Yeah, they were, man. But I was just a handful. They really couldn't do much with me, man.
Yeah.
I was already flipping cars and just going crazy, man. Jumping out the window, running away, just doing whatever the hell I wanted to, man. Just reckless, really.
Yeah.
And wasn't going to listen to nobody. And so, man, I think my parents really did the best they could, with what they had to work with. Like, what do you do, man? I've always been an obsessive individual, and so. Just later in life, I found something positive to be obsessed with.
Yeah.
That was the game changer, is finding that something that I was passionate about, that I could be obsessed over, that would lead me to something positive.
Of course.
But, man, in my youth, I wouldn't listen to nobody, man.
Yeah.
And so going through that, really put me at a disadvantage, with with no schooling, just out there making money, framing houses and working with my cousin and stuff. I really capitalized on doing the wrong thing with the money at that,
Yeah.
You can imagine where that goes.
Of course.
And so, after years and years of just being pointed in the wrong direction, I ended up getting in quite a bit of trouble, man, and they shipped me out for a couple of years. And that was the absolute best thing that could have happened to me.
Yeah. What happened there?
Oh man. So, I find myself out in Yazoo, Mississippi and, in a rough spot, with a bunch of rough people, man, and, not a good spot for a young man to be. It's just a poor environment.
What was it? Like, what was this spot? Like, was it a facility or?
Yeah. I went so I ended up going to federal prison for a couple of years. And so, while I was out there, it was, man, I distinctly remember one of the most pivotal moments of my life was actually in Yazoo, Mississippi, man. Sleeping in the top bunk, just that night, man, I had some conversations with some guys that was about to get out. And they're talking about all of these positive things they're going to do. My uncle's got me a spot with this, or I'm going to have this job, or, my girlfriend's got this spot laid out for us. And man, I'm sitting there with everything that I own in a wall locker that's not even full. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to go out and do? There's nobody waiting on me, right? It's like, there's no opportunity out there for me that I know of. And man, I was just really scared, to be honest.
Yeah.
And, that's a depressing place to be in.
You thought you were probably thinking like, man, am I just going to go back into my same shitty lifestyle?
Man, it's funny. Just growing up, I remember having this fear of turning out to be nothing, right? Nobody, right? Just nobody really looking to you for anything of value. You just kind of exist. That's always been a fear of mine. It's just like ending up being nobody. And so, man, just laying there and being scared about what the future holds and, not knowing what to do to fix it, not knowing what direction to point myself. There's no guidance and stuff. There's nobody coming to save you, in a place like that, man. It's like, it's you versus you every single day. And, man, I remember I started praying, and I got very emotional, and I was just praying to the Lord to save me, like, help me. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah.
And I'm scared and I'm lost and I need help.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it then, man, but my life started changing from that moment. That realization did it. If I don't take control and start to do something intentional to change my life, then the fear that I have is exactly what I'm going to end up being. And man, that fear really drove me for a long time, man. It's like, you can either choose to run towards something or you can choose to run from something. Sometimes either way, you end up in a positive direction, right? So you maybe not choose one versus the other and just let nature take its course. But man, I was really afraid of that. And that fear really drove me, man, to work through and to work harder. And just not stop, man. Just stay in motion. Right?
How would, during your time there, how much time did you have left when you had that thought? If you could,
man, I was about halfway through. And, from that moment, something crazy happened that I didn't realize until probably years later. It's like my mindset started to change.
Yeah.
And when your mindset starts to change, your conversation changes. When your conversation changes, the people around you change. And so, man, it's like, it's this waterfall.
I'm seeing that today.
Oh my God, man. And so it's like, what I noticed was, man, I wasn't interested in the same conversations that I was with the guys that I was having, when I first got in trouble. Right. Yeah. And so it was like this period of separation, man. And by the time I left, I distinctly remember this, right? You always have a crew in a situation like that, right? So I got my boys, right? We do the day-to-day life and stuff. And I remember being at the door when I was being released. And I'm standing there. I got my crew standing there, 5 or 6 guys standing there. I've spent the last couple of years with these guys. And, they said, hey, man, listen, when you get to where you're going, drop us a line. And I said, man, y'all never hear from me again. I hope y'all have a good life. And, dude, I never looked back. I never looked back. That was very intentional, man. When I walked off of that property, that was the last time I was going to step foot on a property like that under those circumstances.
Yeah.
And, I remember one of the guys that took me to the bus station said, you stand an 80% chance of coming back in the next couple of years. I'll see you soon. I said, man, you'll never see my face again. I was like, I couldn't believe that guy had the nerve to say that to me.
What a powerful statement. Well, and of course they probably see that, right? And so that's a chip on your shoulder to prove them wrong. But like, what a powerful statement to be like, because it would be easy just to be like, yeah, man, I'll drop y'all a line. But you intentionally were like, nah, y'all ain't going to hear from me again. I think that's such a powerful moment right there, because nothing against them, But you were burning that freaking bridge like for good. Anything connected to that world, you're like, nope, let's light the fire to this shit. I ain't going back.
Man, sometimes you had to burn the bridge, man, to make sure it's not an option going back. And, I didn't want there to be an option, man. There was no other option but to move forward.
Like the old saying, burn the boats.
Man, it's funny, coming out of that, I just came out with fire, man. I was very determined to do something with myself. And, and listen, it wasn't over with then. Like, I feel like the Lord just kept putting his hand on different situations in my life. I leave there and you got to go to this transition center, man. That's like, what a pain in the ass, man. Everybody there is just like, all you hear is if you make one mistake, you're going back. It's like, they really hold that over. And,
it's just super negative.
It's super negative, man. It's a very, very bad, atmosphere to be in. You're on eggshells. You really don't know what to do this right or what to do this wrong, and just everything seems to be in jeopardy. It's like one wrong move and I'm going back.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I ended up getting into it with some of the people that worked at the halfway house just over bullshit. And my probation officer showed up and he told me, he said, Chris, I'm going to give you two options. So what I didn't realize was that my mom was calling this guy, right? It's like, hey, listen, he needs to come up here. I've got a place for him. We're going to help him and all of these things. Like, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that she was calling a dude. I didn't want to go to Eastern Kentucky, which is where she lived, like in butt crack in Kentucky, man. There's nothing up there. Like, I do not want to go to Kentucky.
Yeah, you need opportunity.
Absolutely, man. And so, so the guy comes in and he said, listen, you got two options, man. You can stay here and in 6 months, I'll have you back where you just come from. Or you can take a chance. You can go up there with your mama, man, and maybe you can make something of yourself. But if you stay here, you're going to go back. I said, man, I'll sign the paperwork.
Keep me here.
That was it, man. So,
where was this at?
So I was in Macon, Georgia, when that happened. That's where I got into trouble at. But my mom, while I was incarcerated, my mom moved to Eastern Kentucky to be up there close to my sister. My sister had her first son.
Okay.
And so she moved up there to do the grandma thing, and here I am getting shipped off,
Yeah.
And so, man, I signed the paperwork and I get released and I go to Eastern Kentucky where there's absolutely nothing. And man, I just remember being so depressed, man. It's like, oh my God.
So I thought I had misunderstood. I thought you had stayed and decided to stay in Georgia.
No.
You decided to go okay. So that was a good move. Yeah, because you're right back around the same influences.
Well, what was crazy, man? So I spent a couple of weeks, like you got a couple of weeks, when you get out before I had to report to Kentucky. And in those 2 weeks, I was doing the exact same thing that got me in there, just like that. The whole crew was there. It's like, hey, man, we can't wait for you to be home so that we can do the same thing we were doing. It got you shipped off.
Oh, you're like, no. You probably put a pit in your stomach too.
Well, man, you're really conflicted at a time like that because you want to go back and do those things that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
But you also want to make some of yourself. It's like, man, if the last couple of years of your life wasn't an example of what not to do, then, man, you maybe you deserve to go back. I didn't want to be that guy, right? It's like, man, I had this fire to do something with myself, even though that's not where I wanted to go. Yeah. The funny thing is, man, sometimes in life you get forced into situations that are actually what's best for you. Yeah. So you might not enjoy the process that you're going through, but you may need to go through it to become who you need to become.
Like getting hit by a car.
You know what? That experience of moving to Eastern Kentucky was absolutely the best thing that could have happened to me at that particular time in my life. And I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, man, I find myself in Eastern Kentucky, sitting on the bed at my mom's house. I'm 18 miles up a dirt road, dude. I mean that shit. 18 miles
out there
up
in the
dirt
sticks,
road, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, man, I remember sitting on the bed, and I had just talked to some friends that was back home. They was going to the lake for, I think it was like a 4th of July or something, and everybody was going to be together and having a good time. Oh, we wish you was there. Man, I went back in. I sat on the bed and I cried. And I'm like, man, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why in the hell am I here? And now I'm stuck, right? It's like, man, you can't just, at a time like that, you can't say, hey, I'm just going back to Georgia. It don't work like that. Yeah. Like, you have signed up. Now you've got to be here. So I decided to make the best of it, man. In Eastern Kentucky, you can work in a convenience store. You can be a coal miner. Coal miners make really good money. Right.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 weeks going to take the class, and while I was taking the class, man, there's something that's crazy that happened. It's always stuck with me, man. It's like, it's one of those pivotal moments that really define you as a person, where you know that you have officially changed. So man, I don't have any money, right? So I'm not working. I'm like weed eating the side of hills and detailing car, anything I can do to make a little money. I give my sister a little money. I'm sleeping on her couch. My brother-in-law is taking me back and forth to, to my MSHA classes. That way I can get the job on the ground. And, nobody thought about it, right? It's like when I leave in the morning, I don't have any money and I also don't have any food with me. Man, I'd be hungry as hell sitting in that damn class, man. It's like when I would leave in the morning, we would eat breakfast. My sister would, would feed me, obviously. When we'd leave, I wouldn't eat again until it was dinner time. And dude, I'm an eater, right?
Yeah.
So man, I'm just starving all day, man. I'm hungry as hell. When we would take the break, I would just go sit outside on the curb. Everybody else would jump in the car and go to lunch. I don't have none of this stuff, right? I got dropped off. So, man, anyway, I'm probably the first week into the class, and I go in the bathroom, and there's a wallet in the bathroom, and it's a fat-ass wallet, and it's slap-ass full of money. I mean, there's 50s, 100s. Dude, listen, it's stacked and packed with cash. The damn thing won't hardly bend.
Like, hell yeah.
So I see this damn wallet, and I'm like, oh, hell. I know I'm hungry as shit. I know I could do something with that money. I picked the wallet up and I opened to see the driver's license. And there was an old man that was taking the class, dude. He's like 70 years old. Not even going, but nobody would hire him in the coal mine. He's just bored. So he's taking the class. And I walked into the room. He was having a conversation with somebody. And I tapped this old man on the shoulder. And I said, sir, you dropped this. He didn't even say thank you. That dude just turned around and went back to his conversation. And I remember standing there thinking, you son of a bitch. Man, if you knew how bad I need this money and you didn't even acknowledge that I did something good. But you know what, man? There was a pivotal moment that happened there. It was like I could have picked the wallet up and did the right thing, or I could have chose to have the same mindset that sent me down the road for a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't give myself enough time to make the wrong decision. I knew what the right thing was, and I immediately took action on that. And I didn't give myself the opportunity for that.
Yeah.
And so, man, it's like there's been so many defining moments since then where I have made the decision to do the right thing, no matter what the cost was, that eventually it just changes who you are.
Yeah, I think that was it. At first, you expected him to be, oh, thanks. But at the end of the day, but that's the point, is doing the right thing because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
And I found, dude, because I'm very, honed in on, I want my path to be righteous. I'm not going to sell out. I'm not going to do this or that. I want to do the right thing always. And to me, that's more important than anything.
Yeah.
No matter what growth I can get from the opposite, right? And but just doing the right thing because it's right is so much more of a challenge, especially as you grow. But then you learn that just becomes a part of who you are. And then the value there and the things you can teach others from that is so powerful, man. So I think, at first you were like, shit. But now if you gave someone their wallet and they didn't say thanks, you'd be like, oh, you wouldn't even care if they didn't say thank you, right? Yeah. It's just like getting the door for somebody and they just walk through.
Yeah.
And they're not like, oh, thanks for getting the door. It's just like you do it because
it's
you're setting the example.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, hell yeah.
So, going from that, I got my mining card and got my first job in the mines. And, the first day for new hire orientation, I show up and, dude, I don't have a car. I don't have a driver's license. I don't have credit. I don't have money. I have nothing, man. So everything that happens from this moment is because someone else stepped into my life and helped me. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, man, I show up to new hire orientation, and man, I've got to find a way back and forth to work, man. It's like I'm already looking for that person. So, we go out to lunch, and the company pay. We're all together and stuff like that. And I'm very intentional. I'm having conversations, looking for somebody that's close to me, that's willing to give me a ride that I can split the gas with.
Yeah.
And I link up with this dude, Blake Kemper. Little shout out to him. Definitely an impact player in my life, man. He's like, hey, man, you can ride with me. Well, the dude he's so extra, man. And I'm so thankful for this. But, I remember our first day at work, man, I was fixing to man, I wasn't going to ask my mom or nobody for anything. My sister, I didn't want to ask them for nothing, man. They had already done more than enough by just giving me a place to crash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a burden on them, so I didn't want to ask for anything. They're probably going to be upset when they hear this because, man, it was like there was a lot of things that I needed or, thought that I wanted or something like that they probably could have helped me with, but I just didn't want to ask them, man,
I know that feeling, man. You don't want to be a burden to somebody, even though, they wouldn't look at it that way, but it's a personal thing, man. Trust me, I get that.
It's a very prideful thing, man.
Yeah.
It's like, so anyway, The first day of work, this dude shows up and he's got his lunch and he's got my lunch. He bought me knee pads in a mining belt. And so he spent money to make sure that I was good. And that dude brought me lunch for the first 2 weeks until I got my first paycheck.
Dude. What a cool dude.
Hey, what a super cool dude, man. And so,
and that's so genuine. I love that.
Listen, and I didn't ask him to do that.
He just did it because he wanted to.
We didn't even have a conversation about that. The dude just naturally done something that was good for somebody else and expected nothing in return.
Yeah, obviously he was paying attention, and so like he just inherently knew like, hey, man, I'm going to look out for this guy.
So, after going into the mines, man, I realized real quick that, man, they offer a lot of training, free training. So, man, if they had somebody to work overtime, I was in. Like, man, I worked every hour that I could. I needed to make all the money that I could. And I also wanted all of the training. So, man, I would do crazy things like, work a 12-hour shift. On second shift, man, we get off work at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
And you're underground.
Underground. Yeah, I was underground coal miner.
Was it pretty intense? Like, were there some sketchy situations?
Oh, there's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, I got some stories.
Yeah, feel free to just throw a couple out there, man.
So we would, we get off work at like 1 o'clock in the morning. We'd grab a nap. I'd be at school. We had a local college that they was doing a mine emergency technician training for us, like to be a first responder underground. So I would work, crash for like 30 minutes to an hour. Then I'd have to drive to the next town to the college so I could sit through the class. And I got the certificate.
Yeah.
Well, that makes you more employable in the coal mine. So, man, I just really got obsessed with everything that you could accomplish, every certificate or training or, certification that you could get, man, I had them. I had every one that was available in the mine.
Oh yeah, man. You're just super proactive.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And, that was just a mindset that I had going into it. And so, what I watched was, man, there was a lot of people, they'd get their paycheck and we made good money in the mines, man. By the time I left, I was right at 6 figures.
Yeah.
It's a dude with a 7th grade education, dude. That's not too damn bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, man, I'm up there killing it. I had to work a lot of hours and stuff, but talking about some of the stuff that I saw in the coal mine, man, there was one of the things that I really enjoyed about the first training that I got, which is that mine emergency technician, first responder, was, man, I worked on a lot of people that got hurt on the ground. That's what the mine emergency technician's job is. When somebody gets hurt, you're the first responder, right? Of course. And so the training that you get is specific to how do you care for someone and get them out of the mines while they're still, and keep them alive so that you can hand them off to a proper first responder.
That's extremely valuable. Yeah,
absolutely, man. So it's like a lot of the training that we did was triage, how to patch them up, how to keep them together so that we can get them outside, because it's a whole process to get somebody that's injured outside of a coal mine.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what year I was in, it had to be in the first 2 years. We went underground one day, and a guy named Daniel Smith, man, like when you're in the coal mine, you're on a 10-man crew, right? We had a 10-man crew, so that's tight relationships, man.
Yeah. Like
the bonds that you make under there. The only thing I know that would be, comparable would be the military.
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking that. Yeah, I'm.
It's like, man, there's something to be said when you're doing sketchy shit that you might not make it through. And the coal mine, there's a lot more of that than people may think, right? Those coal miners are taking a lot of risks, man. It's a very dangerous environment, and we don't control that environment. Mm-mm. And so we go underground one day, and we're probably 30 minutes into running, and I turn around and I see headlamps, because it's just black. But you can see everybody's headlamps, and I can see that something's different. It's a different vibe. It's a different energy. And so I shut the piece of equipment down. It was a 2-man piece of equipment. We shut it down and we go to see, and the top had caved in and crushed one of our brothers. And by the time I get to him, man, it's like he's broken half backwards, dude. I literally pulled his legs out from behind him. He's a T5 paralysis. He's never walked since that day, man.
Damn.
And that was hard, man. We got him on the stretcher. Everybody did such a great job, man. We get him on the stretcher, we get him mobilized, stabilized, get him on the ride, we're transporting him outside, and man, it's about a 45-minute ride out, and it was just me and him in the back of that ride. We cried together. He was scared, and I was scared for him, man. And I remember, having that conversation and just seeing his pain and just thinking, man, he's never going to be the same. Like, I knew this was really bad, man. I just knew it was bad, and I kept watching his feet, man, and he never moved his feet, right? Well, there's this thing. One of the signs and symptoms of a broke back is an erection in a man.
Yeah.
And that was just one of the things that I picked up in training. I'm like, I wonder if he'll know. And so I nut checked him, and dude, he didn't know I was there. So it was like he was already paralyzed at that moment. And I just remember that sick feeling like, oh my God, man, this is not good, right? And so, man, we get him out of the mines. And I remember thinking, man, you know, that affected me because I was the one with him. I remember that conversation that me and him had on the way out.
Yeah.
I remember how that made me feel. And, you know, man, that was, it almost made me not want to coal mine anymore. And I remember thinking like, man, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to be like that? Do I want to end up being that? And you know what? I come to the realization that guys like me really need to be there because that's what got him out, you know? And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being the guy that could keep my shit together long enough to make that happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because at a time of crisis, just because the person has the training don't mean they're the one that you're going to look to.
Oh yeah, I know. They can get freaked out and just like freeze up. Oh yeah.
Absolutely, man. So just acknowledging that, you know, that I was kind of built for that and that, you know, it's probably a good place for me to be because I can add value to others. That's something that's always just driven me, man. You know, being a value add. So, man, you know, I leaned into the training and did more of the training.
Yeah.
And that served me well because, man, I've come across a lot of random accidents, you know, over the years and be able to help people.
Oh, so you've got the skill set that's, you know, lasts for life. That's always valuable.
You know, man, I've come across wrecks where one young guy, it flipped a vehicle. He's upside down. His leg is pinned in the firewall and he's in there he's crying. He's scared. There's smoke coming out of the vehicle. And this just happened, man. We just rolled up on this scene.
Yeah.
And hell, I climbed in the car with the dude with it smoking. My wife, my daughter, I had a 3-month-old, you know, at the time. And so my wife, my daughter, and I think it was my mother-in-law was with us. And I'm like, stop. And I go jump in the car with him. And I see the situation he's in. And, man, I get the pressure off of the leg because the leg is trapped in the firewall and he's upside down. So, man, that leg is like bent in half backwards.
Yeah.
You know, that's not good.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I got in the car and sat on the roof of the car and like pushed him up into the seat. That way the pressure was off of the leg. I've just always been willing to jump in, man. You know, I had a dude had a heart attack one time, and I did CPR on him, and the guy started back breathing.
You're like, holy shit. I mean, dude, it's crazy because, like, most people, I mean, I don't run into these situations. I've run into people that need help, and, like, I'm the same way. I'm jumping out. I'm going to figure it out. Like, if you need help and, like, there's no one else around that's a professional like that, then I'm going to do what I can. But, like, you had those skills, and it's weird because you were like placed there in these situations, which isn't common for everybody, and you're able to do something about it.
Listen, man, I've come across so many wrecks where I've been like the first one there and been able to make an impact on that. I think there's definitely something to that, you know, like the guy that was, you know, that had the heart attack, man. He's a 400-pounder, man, and you know, they actually wheel him out, and he, you know, when the guy's in a wheelchair, hold his arms, like, man, my chest and my arm, and I'm like, get him out of the damn wheelchair, get him on the ground, get his feet elevated, you know, just like get prepared for him to go into cardiac arrest. That way we can work on him.
Yeah.
So hell, by the time the dude actually went into cardiac arrest, he was already laying on the ground and his eyes roll back and he goes and starts gurgling. And I'm like, oh my God.
What the hell?
So, man, I end up doing, doing CPR on him. Listen, when you got a 400-pound guy that's got lips like catfish and you don't have a pocket mask, it's gross.
Yeah.
It's fucking gross.
Yeah,
I wrapped his lips around my face because his face is like 3 times the size of mine to get the breaths into him. And then I went to a 3-point stance and rocked his ass. And so I'm in the middle of doing chest compressions, right?
Did you stop and pause before you went down? You did it where you're like, shit, man, just start breathing?
Nah, instantly.
Yeah, just messing with
you. No, so, you know, the funny thing is when the shit hits the fan like that, man, you don't think about it. You just,
yeah.
You know? But the funny thing was when it was all over with, so I'm doing chest compressions and the guy's eyes, you know, slam open. And he's, and I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on, dude? It's like, it's such a high intensity moment, man. Well, then the paramedics got there. They stabilize him. They take him out of there. And I walk outside and I hit fresh air and I get sick. That's when I fall apart. And dude, I'm shaking. I'm sick to my stomach. I start throwing up. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? Man, that adrenaline was hitting so hard, but it only hit after the fact.
Yeah.
Man, that's a wild ride.
Yeah, so, dude, I can imagine. I mean, and to go with what you're saying, like, you know, I've been going out to Western North Carolina and helping out there.
Yeah.
And I talked about with the founder of the group I go out there with, and, you know, when you're helping somebody, judgment goes out the window. Yeah. Like when you had to do that in that moment, you didn't see a 400-pound man. You just saw somebody that needed help.
That's it.
And you just did what you had to do. And I think that's what it comes down to, man. Just in those situations, it doesn't matter. It's a human soul.
Yeah.
They need help right now. You're going to take care of it.
Yeah. Well, that's having that training is something I'm really glad that I did. That was they gave me the ability to be able to make a positive impact. And that's just like the common theme throughout everything that I was trying to do. So anyway, utilizing that after I left, while I was in the coal mine, I also got my electrical license, right?
Cool.
I wanted to be a certified, coal mine electrician. And that's actually what led me to the remainder of my career, man. So I'm really glad that, that I went through the process to be able to do that. And so I got that training as well. Toward the end of my season in the coal mine, I did 8 years in the coal mine. And, man, I just really was.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it is, man. Well, it's a long think about it. When you go to work, when you work in the coal mine 6 days a week, you're underground. If you go underground in the wintertime, you don't see the sun until Sunday. You go underground and it's dark. You come out and it's dark. It's like, man, I got to where I would just crave sunshine. I was like, man, I can't imagine doing this for the rest of my life. Like, man, there's got to be something else. I can't do this. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people in Eastern Kentucky, dude, that's it. That's it.
They just do that, and that's their life.
That's it, man. They go to work when they're 18 years old. They go underground, and that's what they do until they're either too feeble or broke down or old to be able to enjoy retirement. Like, man, that's not a good thing, man. So big shout out to the guys that, that really put in work like that and keep the lights on for us, man.
It's not for everybody, man. A lot of people ain't willing to do that. You talked about the good money, but there's also the work that goes into it, the darkness, all those things, the risks.
Man, some of the hardest working, grittiest men that I've ever turned a wrench with, man. It's like the work ethic in the coal mine is it's incredible, man. So to be a young guy in an environment like that with a bunch of salty ass old men that don't know nothing but hard work, man, we had this saying, if you can't hack it, pack your jacket. Get your ass out. A lot of guys didn't make it, man. You could usually tell the ones that won't go make it. The first weekend, it's like they're not cut out for it, man.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just like the learning curve, or they just don't got the work ethic?
Man, a lot of it's the environment, the work ethic, and the pressure because, man, when you got a bunch of guys standing there that know nothing but hard work, you're not just going to stand there with a shovel in your hand, or you're not going to stand there and be idle by. If not, they're just not going to tolerate that shit. You're going to have to pitch in and work. So, it's a lot of just alpha guys in there, man. So like you can't be a soft ass dude and work in the coal mine. It's like it's a hard environment, man. And it's a bunch of hard ass men. So for me, that was a good environment to be in because it just instilled work ethic, right?
Of course.
And those guys didn't complain, man. You didn't hear the 55, 60-year-old guy talking about, oh, my back hurts. He can't stand up straight, and you'll never hear him complain about that shit, man. It's just like that's life, man.
It's just part of it.
It's part of it, man. Go back to work.
Yeah. Get your shit done. Yeah.
So, that was,
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate just the pushing through.
Yeah.
Obviously, like longevity wise, health wise, it's probably not the best thing to do.
Absolutely.
But like mindset wise, like I think it's very important. Like I think, hey, props to those guys, man, because that takes balls and it just takes a certain mindset to just be able to do that. And commit.
Man, the power that we have turning the lights on right now come from the coal mine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is TVA power, man. This is coal-fired power right here.
Yep.
So, man, those guys keeps the lights on. And, man, what a sacrifice they make to be able to make that happen. But being in that environment with that work ethic, man, just really prepared me because the next job that I had was almost a cultural shock. And I went to work for a crane company, and that was more like corporatized. And, man, coal mine's a bunch of roughnecks, man, Yeah. Like, they operate a little differently. Yeah. You ain't going to go in there and run your mouth because them guys will pin you down and pack your butt crack full of grease. I mean, it's a different environment, man. It's like, it's a roughneck crew, right?
Yeah.
And so I leave that and I go to an environment where I distinctly remember the first ass chewing that the branch manager gave to me and a couple of the other techs. And he got done with it. I'm like, I guess I had a look on my face. And I remember he looked in and he's like, I mean, what, you got something to say? And I'm like, was that an ass chewing? He's like, well, yeah. Okay, I was just making sure, man. It's like that's not how it went into coal.
You might well just like did that.
Listen, man, it was just it was a completely different experience. In the coal mine, they'll kick the freaking door off the hinge, man. It's like they'll cuss you. It's like I can't believe you do that. Don't do that shit no more. It's like it was just a different environment, man.
Yeah, and nobody's of course out there in the open. There's eyes everywhere too. Like down the coal mines, man, you just got that crew.
Well, you know what? Nobody was offended because somebody dropped a F-bomb while they were, being instructed on how to do something. It was just different, man. Those guys didn't take offense to stuff like that. It's like, hey, man, get back to fucking work.
Yeah.
You didn't have somebody running to HR. Oh my God, he used the F word with me. You know what I mean? It's a different environment, man.
Yeah.
So when I went back to a more of a corporatized thing, that was kind of a cultural shock. But dude, the work ethic is what got me through because, man, I worked. You know, man, we was hitting 16, 17, 18, 19-hour shifts.
But that beforehand made it almost a breeze.
Listen,
so you were able to outperform, I'm sure.
Listen, man, just absolute workhorse. That was it. Definitely not the smartest, not the most talented, but can't be outworked. And there's something to be said about work ethic in an environment like that.
Of course.
So, you know, man, also at that particular time, at that particular branch, there was so much talent on the team, man. A lot of really smart guys, you know, that I was able to learn from. And no matter what environment I've ever been in, man, if I'm passionate about it, I'm going to be like a sponge.
Yeah.
And so, man, you know, after 8 years of the same thing, now I'm driving around in a company truck into sunshine through downtown Nashville. Dude, I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah.
Man. Going into all of these different factories and seeing the different processes and automation and equipment. And, you know, man, immediately I fell in love with the new career. You know, working on cranes, overhead industrial cranes. And I'm like, you know, this is all I want to do.
So you were in Kentucky doing the coal mining. And then, so did you move from there to get this new job?
Yeah. When that season of the coal mine was over, man, I just kind of knew it. You know, I knew it. Me and my wife talked about it, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity up there either.
When did you meet your wife?
Man, we've known each other since I was 16 and she was 14.
Oh, so y'all met in Macon. Yeah.
We come from the same hometown, man. Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure this is where my mom was born. I think I told Chris Norton.
Really?
I think my mom's from, my whole family's from like below Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we could talk about that later, but I've got Georgia roots, man. I grew up most of my life in Georgia. Yeah. But,
so man. So with,
damn, so she was with you. Well, just real quick. So, because like that's a very important part of your life, you know, obviously, and you're a family man, and I know I recognize that both in you and the other Chris, you know, y'all that's like y'all's freaking purpose right there, man. That makes y'all so much better, and I think it's just a really cool thing. But so y'all met early on. When did y'all get together, and like, was she with you the whole time you were like away or what?
So, man, we met, you know, again, I think I was 16 and she was 14 years old when we first met. And we were she's always been my girl, man. It's like, you know,
really?
Like literally the first day that I met her, I'm like, nah, she mine. That's my girl.
It's my girl.
But we did spend, you know, years going in different directions, you know, being young and wild, and, you know, life took us in different directions, and we both, I think, needed that, right?
Yeah.
And just somehow, man, after I got out of Mississippi and moved up to Eastern Kentucky, the stars aligned, man. And she come up there and see me one time, which is a crazy ass story. I mean, her car gets destroyed on the way up to Kentucky.
No way.
Oh man, listen, she shows up with the front bumper in the back seat, dude. It's like she left with a perfectly fine vehicle. And
was she driving through the coal mines or something?
No, man. It's like something in the road, you know, ripped her spoiler off and like busted a tire, like in multiple events on the way up there. And she still came. And so, you know, man, she come up to spend a weekend with us, with me. And because her and my mom was always so close, we went out to my mom's house for the last night that she was going to be there, and rode four-wheelers and had fun. And man, we'd come back from riding four-wheelers, and she was trying to drive her car to my mom's house, which again is 18 miles up a dirt road at the time.
Yeah.
The donut that she had on the car blew. So we just park it. They come and get us. We go on a four-wheeler ride. When we come back, her car was broken into. They busted a window, stole the radio, all of her school clothes, all of her books. And it's like, man, she just went home busted in my mom's sweatpants. So listen, dude, the crazy thing is, man, it's like my mom's standing there, you know, she's leaving. My mom's crying. Oh, she'll be back. I said, Mama, she ain't never coming back. It's over with.
She's had a hell of a journey.
Yeah, man. Like, dude, she would be crazy to come back. If that's not a sign to keep your ass out of Kentucky, I don't know what is. And dude, she came back anyway. So, yeah, man, we've been at it for a long time, dude.
Dude, I love that.
Absolutely one of the best things ever happened to me, man. You know, and the fact that she circled back and I got that second opportunity because I really kind of blew it on the first one, man. It's like, man, I'm not gonna mess that up again. You know what I mean? And so within a short time, you know, she was pregnant, and that was it. I was locked in at that time. I'm like, there was no other options available.
Oh, so you had your first while you were still in the coal mines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, that's been a really cool experience because we grew up together. There's a lot of history there, you know, even between like my parents and her parents, man. Like they watched us. I was thinking about this not long ago. They've literally watched, her parents have watched me grow up just like they watched her grow up. They've known me since I was 16 years old, man.
Yeah.
A kid that was completely lost, and her dad hated me. Oh, he hated me.
I mean, could you blame him?
Absolutely like not, man. Absolutely not.
If your daughter dated a younger you, you'd be like, listen, honey, stop it.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what's crazy. So he absolutely could not stand me. I remember, when I first got to Kentucky, I got her phone number from a mutual friend, and I called her, and her dad answered. And I said, hey, man, speak to Casey. And he said, who is this? He was always like that. And I said, this is Chris. He said, don't call my house no more. Click. Dude, I called the next day. And the next day, it's like, dude, I'm just going to keep calling, man. If you pick up, and so finally, I get through to her, man. It's just like being relentless, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely being relentless.
Yeah.
And was able to make it, work out. But here's the thing, man. Now he calls me number one.
Of course.
It's like he really didn't like me. But he is willing to give it a chance because he thought that's what would make her happy. And I'm proud that I've made him proud. Like he don't feel like he made a bad decision by accepting me into the family now. You know what I mean? That's kind of a flex for me. I work really hard for the respect that he gives me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's always meant a lot to me because he's a good man. Definitely somebody that I look up to. So.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, I love that. I mean, it's for all the reasons he should have been reluctant. I respect it. Like I would be the same way, but at the same time, like at the end of the day, she's her own woman. She's gonna make her own choices, and she followed through with her choice. And your dad's got to see the growth in the man you become, and that's such a cool freaking thing, man. Like, talk about something to be proud of.
Yeah. Well, man, I tell you, my wife really took a stand. She's like, listen, this is who I'm going to be with. So
she trusted her gut, her intuition. Man.
Like, this is who I'm going to be with. You're going to have to accept that. And she didn't really give it any other options. And with no other options, it's like. He was a little more willing, I think, to take a step toward the relationship, and that's what I really wanted. Like, I wanted his blessing and his approval. You know what I mean? That was important to me. And so just by doing my thing and making sure that I handle business and take care of his, of his baby girl and, the grandkids and stuff like that and be a good provider and protector, man. It's like over the years, I was able to earn his respect. And so that's something I'm very thankful for.
Hell yeah, dude. I love that, bro. Yeah. That's good shit, man. That's a wholesome story because you hear things like that. I mean, he could have always been that way, but I think just to see the growth that you've had and for others to be able to see that change, man, like hearing from where you came from and just, hell, not even to now, but to, through the coal mines and everything and having your first daughter, I mean, the changes there have been so significant and drastic, bro. Like I'm listening to you tell your story and I'm like, you go from this kid that, without lack of better terms, like there's no hope for him.
Yeah.
Into prison, supposed to go back, because look at the road that led him there, to becoming someone that's like taking on all the training to like, dude, utilizing some of the stuff to save some lives, to become disciplined and structured and just work his ass off and get all the certifications, man. I just think it's a beautiful thing. So props to you, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You should be proud of yourself.
Yep, absolutely. Well, man, the beautiful thing is I'm still grinding like I was then, man.
Yeah, of course.
That same thing that drove me to want to get the first certificate that I got is the same thing that drives me now to learn something new,
Yeah. I'm a sucker for good love stories too.
Yeah.
Just stories like that. I'm a sucker for that, man. I'm like, yeah.
Well, it's definitely been cool. And, it's kind of unique because the people that we grew up with remember us and it's still us.
You're like, how the hell?
Yeah, man. And when you look at divorce rates and just the stats that revolve around a lot of that stuff, we fitted into a lot of the key demographics that would mean that we should not make it. And yet here we stand, and I really couldn't be any happier, man. It's like it's a whole flex, dude. Like we got this whole cool thing going on with the business, and we're doing well. We're comfortable, but we're driven. And we're doing it together. Like my wife works inside of the business, man. She does all the accounting and invoicing and bookkeeping and audits.
That's the goal for me down the road. Yeah.
So she absolutely runs, the financial side of the business, which is she didn't have any experience in that either. So she has had to learn as well, right? Like two people with absolutely no business experience, and yet here we are 10 years later with a very successful, multi-service platform business.
Yeah, I wrote about this recently. The schools pushed a lot, and I've had people like a buddy intern here and stuff like that, and they've got the structure where they teach things, going for focus groups or whatever, and I've just got my way of doing things. And dude, guess what? I didn't have no business experience. I started as a business major at one point because I went back to school after the military. And I took accounting once and I was like, screw this shit, and I pursued a different path with school. But, coming into this, dude, I had no knowledge of it. I was just like, I'm going to make it happen, bro. Guess what? I had to believe in myself. And along the way, there's a lot of freaking mistakes that happen. But guess what? Those are the best lessons, dude, because school books, that's all theory. It's applicable if you want to learn, but the experience is going to teach you everything you need to know.
You know, man, I think a lot of times not having experience is kind of a good thing because you're not bringing in bad habits that you don't know are bad habits, right? It's like, you know, without having any corporate experience, nobody ever showed me how to be a leader, right? Like I never had any structure for that. I had leaders, but nobody invested like, hey, this is what leadership looks like. This is how you set up a leadership meeting, or how you engage with somebody, or how do you inspire. Like there was no instruction for any of that. There was no like, this is how you structure the business. Well, that would have been helpful 10 years ago. I know how to do it now, but there's also a lot of things that I did along the way that were different, intentionally different. And I didn't know any. So some were intentionally different, and some were just like, it was different because I didn't know any better.
Of course.
And it still worked for me.
Yeah.
So if I would have been trying to do what somebody else was doing, I might would have failed, man. Like it might have took my unique flavor and brand to be able to make what I was doing work because it was unique.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what works for one may not work for the other, and you can duplicate the exact same thing someone else is doing and not duplicate the results. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I think self-belief and willpower are two of the strongest things, man. If you got that willpower and that drive, if you can just keep going and believe in yourself along with all the mistakes, then, dude, you're going to create what you were meant to create, and you're going to learn a lot of shit along the way. Yeah. And so, yeah, man, I love that.
So, when my season in the mines was over with, I had to figure out what the next thing was. And it wasn't going to be in Eastern Kentucky. I wanted to get back, close to a city, somewhere where my kids would have opportunity. And there's just not a lot of opportunity up there.
Yeah.
So I blasted my resume, and a lot of recruiters really hit me up, and I actually chose the least paying job. The job that I took had the smallest offer. I took a $4 an hour pay cut. I transitioned down. They didn't help me with the transition, right? I didn't get any relocation fees or nothing like that. So it was a big risk. And I remember my wife telling me, she's like, Chris, I don't understand how this is going to work, right? Like, we own a home. What are we going to do with this thing? We're not going to sell it, in a month after I accepted the position. We didn't have anywhere to move to, a lot of unknowns there. And I'm like, listen, it'll work. It'll work. Well, how? Look, I can't explain it to you, but I believe that this is going to work so much that I'm willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
So I accepted the job. I do 2 weeks of new hire orientation in Springfield, Ohio. We come to Nashville on the first weekend in between, the 2 weeks of training. We met down here, and we had a Saturday and a Sunday to find a place to relocate to. The next weekend, the following week, I started my job in Nashville, and I still owned a home in Kentucky. Dude, we're in such limbo, man. Like, what the hell are we going to do with this? I have no idea what I'm doing here, right? So I told her, I was like, listen, let's put together a lease to own for the house, and let's find somebody to rent it. Maybe that will get somebody to take care of the place, and we can rent it. Yeah. Dude, we found that like almost immediately.
Like that.
Just like that, dude. It was so easy, man. I drafted a contract. I looked some crap up online, put together a little contract, and the people signed it. So we had somebody to take, the home off of us. So we drive around all day Saturday. We can't find anything, man. We're from, North Nashville, South Nashville. Well, on Sunday, we're running out of time. We send this one ad for Gallatin, Tennessee. We stop by the place. We call, and the girl that answers the phone for the leasing agency, she said, I'm actually at the office now, but I'm in my sweatpants. If you want to come sign the paperwork, I guess I could do it now. And I'm like, shit, I have nothing else to do, right? And nowhere to go.
Yeah.
We're on the way to you. Man, we show up, we sign it. So we found a place that we was going to relocate with in 1 weekend. Like, nice. That shit is just not meant to be.
Yeah.
So just like doors just kept getting kicked open, man, to make the transition possible. And when I got down here, my first day on the job, I get in my service truck and I drive to the other side. Actually, I ended up driving through downtown Nashville. And it's a beautiful sunshiny day. Dude, I just spent 8 years underground with no sunlight. I am fucking loving it, right? Yeah. It's just like heaven, man. And so I get to this factory downtown Nashville, and we get in there, and all of the automation and dip tanks. It's a galvanizing place. It's nasty as hell, and I freaking loved it, man.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it. We go in, I go in with another technician, and when we leave, shit's running. It felt good. Yeah. And man, just in a short time, I absolutely fell in love with the industry. I loved everything about walking in and greeting, someone and fixing problems. Not a lot of people work on cranes. It's a very niche market, right?
Yeah.
And being a good one is even more niche.
Yeah, it's something like it's just one of those things that doesn't pop in your head of like not. Job options. Yeah,
absolutely right. Yeah. And but man, it was like the environment that I was in, getting to see the inside of all of these factories, the Bridgestones, the Nissans, all of these big auto manufacturers, and all of the tiered suppliers to them. In about a 200-mile radius, I've been in most of them.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of cool, operations, and I got to meet a lot of really smart individuals. And after a couple of years of doing that for another company, I'm like, man, this is what I want to do. I just don't want to do it for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm very passionate about it, and I wanted to do my own thing, man. I wanted to invest in me, right?
Yeah.
I was willing to work 17, 18 hours a day for anybody else. Why wouldn't I be willing to work like that for myself?
100%.
And so, man, I had done really good saving my money in the coal mine, very frugal with it. And so I made the decision I was going to start the business, and I bought a house, here in Tennessee. I bought our first house in Tennessee. I quit my job, and I started my company, like in that order. Boom, boom, boom. I bought a house. I quit my job. I started my company.
Hell yeah.
I mean, just completely off the ledge.
Yeah.
And
I'm going all in. That's what it takes, though.
Hey, listen, man, I went broke in 3 months.
I feel you there.
I mean, dude, listen. So I saved up like 90,000 something, in the mines, and I was broke in 3 months. I'm like, I don't even understand how the fuck this happened, man. I did every step I took was in the wrong order. And I still made it.
I feel you.
And so, here we are, 6 months in, 9 months in, something like that. My wife is like, listen, Chris, if you don't go to work, we're going to lose everything. And I'm like, well, we started off with nothing. Like, I feel like we're better off now than we was when we started. Like, I'm not ready to quit, right? So I'm not. Here we go. Man, we tried to sign up on food stamps.
Yeah.
Like everything, man. And you know what? Unless they come and take all your stuff, the government won't help you do nothing, man. So here I am that I worked 8 years. I paid all my taxes, did all the things, man. And now I'm trying to make the business run, and there's nobody to help.
Yep.
So you know what? I told my wife, I said, look, they're just going to have to come and get it because I'm not quitting. Right? This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
And dude, I just kept working and working and working. And finally, after a couple of years, we actually started making money. You know
nice.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that first year, man, I took like a $25,000 pay cut, and I was a blue collar dude. Listen, I had already taken a $4 an hour pay cut to move to Nashville. Now I took another pay cut.
Yeah.
Man, that first year was brutal, dude. Like no vacations, we eat bologna. Dude, I ate bologna. I would drive to Chattanooga to do sales calls and sleep in my truck because I couldn't afford a room.
Yeah. Dude,
listen, man, like there was nothing I wasn't willing to do.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Like there was nothing that was beneath me, man. I believed in it so much that I was willing to do stuff that would have embarrassed most people. And I didn't care, man. Like I didn't need nobody's approval. I wasn't doing it for nobody but me.
Yeah.
And so I would drive, 3 hours to Chattanooga. I'd sales call until nobody would, open the door. I'd sleep in my truck, and I'd be back in an industrial park 7 o'clock the next morning, knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Handing out my little cheesy ass Vistaprint, brochure that I did myself because I couldn't afford to pay nobody else to do it, man. And so I just thugged it out, man. I wasn't embarrassed about it. I was like, man, I hope it ain't gonna be like this for long, for sure. But, and you know what? I was willing to put everything on the line.
Yeah.
And I just kept hitting it again and again and again. And I remember I launched in January of 2015. December of 2015, I got a call from a client that I've been pursuing down in Chattanooga, right? It was a big account, and I'm a one-man show, dude. I don't have any support. There's no inside sales or engineering or this or that. It's Chris.
Yeah.
That's it. And he called me on Christmas Eve, and the guy said, son, listen to me. He said, I want to give you an opportunity here, but I'm afraid you're not going to be able to do this. If I give you a shot, are you going to be able to handle this? And I said, if you give me the opportunity, I won't let you down. I will not let you down. He gave me the opportunity. We started the next week. I started off the new year with the biggest account. Dude, it would still be considered a well account for me right now.
Hell
right?
Yeah.
And that right there is when I actually started making enough money to invest in the company, to create a company out of it, instead of it just being Chris in a truck. You know what I mean?
We were talking about that off camera, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the guy gives me the shot, and, man, I showed up down there he said, listen, I've got some work for you down here. I got to rebuild a brake, and it's a big brake on a really big crane, right? So it's not small stuff. And I show up he's like, I need this done Saturday. I said, I'll see you Saturday morning. And I show up and I'm by myself. And he said, Chris, where's your help at? And I was like, man, give me a couple hours and the crane will be running. A couple hours, crane was running. I called him, he was like, hey man, you ready to run? I load tested and everything. Like everything you need, you're ready to go. He said, man, I got something else for you to look at. He wanted me to install 2 hoists in the front of the plant. We go up there and look at it. I said, I'll be here Saturday. I show up on Saturday, and he's like, Chris, where's your help at? And I'm like, listen, man, give me a couple hours. I'll have you running. I swapped both of the hoists out that day.
Hell yeah.
By myself. Like, dude, I wouldn't send my guys to go and do it as a one-man show. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not a one-man job.
Yeah.
I didn't have an option. So I made the shit happen. Those 2 jobs right there that I did is the reason why he was willing to give me, the opportunity for this large account as a one-man show. And he knew I was a one-man show. So that immediately put me, in a position where I had to staff up, which was a good thing. And that's just kind of where it started. Listen, man, we ran that account for like 4 or 5 years. And we did end up, parting ways with that account. That's the natural progression of it, by the way. But man, the lessons that was learned going through that process, that man really took a chance on me.
Yeah.
Because that was a lot of responsibility. The profitability of the plant that he was, deemed to run, if the cranes don't run, they don't make money. That's it. You're like production is shut down. It's a very big deal. So he took a big risk on me.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. I'll always be thankful for the opportunity that he gave me.
Yeah, dude. And I think it's really cool because, not only the gratitude there, because he gave that opportunity, because I think that sometimes that's all somebody needs, man. Just give me that one opportunity, dude. And that can change everything. But the fact of the matter is that you showed up as a one-man crew and you did it. Like you said, you wouldn't send your guys to do it, and it wasn't a one-man job. And you yourself wouldn't just volunteer to go do that shit by yourself, but you were doing what you had to do at that season in your life. And sometimes it's going to take a lot of extra shit on you in order to get to the next level. I mean, that's just, sometimes you got to bite off more you could chew.
Oh, yeah, man.
And you did it, and it paid off.
Dude, listen, when you dedicate to something that is big like that, you got to go all in. And you know what? Here's the thing. There was never another option, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan B. There was no backup plan. There was a plan A, man. I'm going all in with plan A.
Yes.
I'm either going to live or die by plan A, but there's no plan B. So I never gave myself another option. I never had that conversation with myself like, hey, if this don't work out, fuck that. This is going to work out.
Yeah.
That was the only option that I left myself. And when you start to remove options, man, your choices get very clear, right? You can have all kind of options. When you start limiting the options that you give yourself, man, and you put success as a primary, factor in the decision-making process, man, you really are aligning yourself with your goals. And that's a good thing, man, especially when you push through long and hard enough to achieve the goal.
Dude, I feel you there, man. It's like when I moved in here, I was like, I want to put my back against the wall. I don't want to have a place to move but forward, right? That's what I need, is just the only option is forward, right? And I feel you right there, man, because I think that's just kind of the point, is just going all in. And I think about it. It's like there is no freaking backup plan. There's no plan B. There's no other option for me. I can't even imagine that. And even if I was to start thinking about it, it'd just be right back to where the vision.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing.
Yeah.
I'd much rather go through all the other shit and maintain that vision than even flirt with the idea of any other plan, because I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to. And you believe that, man. So
absolutely, man. I see a lot of, young aspiring entrepreneurs and stuff, and, man, they've got it, but they'll start down the path and it'll get really hard, man. Like there's times where it's just unbearable. You're in tears, man. We were having that talk. It's like, man, you can cry yourself, pull in the driveway and cry your eyes out.
Yeah.
Because you're lost and confused and scared. But then you put a smile on your face in front of the family and you go and you make sure they have a great evening, right?
Yeah.
And you keep all of that shit bottled up, man. That's really the fuel that I use, right? It's like all of the hard times is just knowing that, damn, man, if I made it through that, there ain't nothing going to stop me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people could have made it through that.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people would have been willing to push themselves through what it took to make it through that fucking season, man.
Yeah.
Because that's a hard season. It's an ugly season. When you're getting your ass whooped every day and you don't know what to do and you don't know how to make it stop.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to stand there and fucking take it.
Yeah.
And you got to go through that process, man. And what you become is actually the person you were supposed to be, man. But you got to be willing to walk through the fire to get there, man.
It's the coolest fucking thing there is.
It really is, man. A lot of, I think every man should have the capability to push himself to his absolute limits. I don't care if it's mentally, physically, spiritually, or a combination of all three. Mm-hmm. You should know what it is to really push yourself.
Yeah.
Till you have nothing left to give.
Yep.
Because, in my opinion, man, that's like the closest to you that you'll ever be, right? Like you find yourself on the path while you're destroying yourself, man.
God, I mean, but that is all those things tied in, honestly, because I feel like even if you push yourself that degree in a physical sense, you're going to meet yourself spiritually too.
Absolutely.
And mentally, you're tying all those things. I think just pushing yourself just to where you have nothing left to give, that's going to tie everything in together and then give you that true strength and fortitude. Like, I think that's just such a powerful thing. And yeah, no matter what it is, not like we talked about earlier, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, but to push yourself in some avenue in life that you're passionate about, to put you in that place, is only going to make you better for yourself and everyone around you.
It definitely makes you a better version of yourself.
I mean, at least obviously you have a choice. Some people take it and they go sour and, but we're kind of like not really focused on that. We're focused about the positive outcome of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it can turn bad too.
It can.
You've seen it. I mean,
sometimes I wonder though, for the ones that it turned bad, like if they just would have stood up one more time, would it still be bad? Right? It's like, did they really give it everything they had? That's one thing that's always like been a fear of mine. It's like, man, did I give it everything that I had? Right? Yeah. I'm very driven with stuff, which is quite a problem sometimes. Yeah. Right? It's like, man, it forces you to do stuff to yourself that you really don't make sense. It's like, man, you should not have pushed through that so many times. Because maybe that one didn't grow you, but these other ones did. So, I don't know, man. I'm just a firm believer in being very disciplined and dedicated, and intentional.
Yeah.
Right. I want to be an intentional individual, man. I like to have intentional conversations. I like to have intentional days where I wake up and it's like, listen, I got 3 things on my checklist that if I don't do anything other than these 3, that was a pristine day. That's the best that my day can be if I just check these 3 boxes. And so I wake up and I attack those boxes, man. It's like, that's what I'm laser focused on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess sometimes it can go bad, man. There's always the horror stories out there. But you know what? There's a lot more wins out there, man. When you meet people that actually chase their dream and got a little taste of it, man, it changes them for the better, and it makes them a better version of them for the rest of the world.
Dude, that's what it's all about.
You know what I mean?
That's like, what it's all about.
If you want to make a positive impact on people, make a positive impact on yourself.
It's energetic. Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Hell yeah, man. And I love what you said, dude. And we connect there, man. And it's because I've had a lot of people. My wife, early on, she said, one of the most attractive thing about me was my drive. And so you talked about that drive thing, but then even I've had people come in and they're like, I don't know how you're so disciplined all the time. And then 3, the intentional part, like we talked about this all throughout the entire day since you've been here, is being intentional towards everything, our business, our families. That's the most important thing. So we connect there 100%. Yeah. And I think those things are so powerful. I mean, and you talked about the conversation. That's why I can't talk about sports with people. I don't watch sports. I'm not knocking people for watching sports. It's just like, I want my conversations to embody this level of conversation, right? And that's not for everybody, but like I know what I need for me to grow as well, and it's to surround myself with people have that intention.
Man, we just went through a Super Bowl season, and I had a really good friend of mine. He was like, man, everybody's talking about the Super Bowl right now, and I really don't have anything to talk about. He's like, that's just, I'm not interested in sports. We're interested in business and marketing, growth, training, like physical training, spiritual training, acquiring knowledge, just having intentional conversations that grow you.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what the Cowboys did, man. I don't care. I can't tell you what they did, man. I'm not a sports
guy. Were they in the
Super
Bowl?
But I'm 100% interested in the conversation about how you got to where you are,
right?
Or what your dreams are, what like all of these other things, man. It's just so it's a different conversation. And what I find is when you put yourself through, the hard times and you keep standing up, it changes you, which changes the conversations, which changes the people around you.
Yes, sir.
It's like, man, it's such a progressive thing, and people don't realize that, that you are transitioning as you put yourself through that process, right? Yep. It's like getting your ass whooped and standing back up. You got a little more grit every time you do that. Next thing you know, you're having conversations with a different type of person.
Hell yeah. And I try to say, I'm like you do. I try to stay pretty detached just from news and shit anyways, because it can get overwhelming. Yeah. So until someone, like one of my close friends brought it to my attention like that, a couple days after it happened, I didn't even realize.
Well, I tell a lot of people, if you're trying to get in touch with me, like Messenger is not, I don't have alerts on my phone. One night I caught myself, I was doom scrolling, I think is what they call it. And it's like, man, I'm just flipping. And man, I'm wired a little different, ADHD and all of the good things, man. So, anything that gives me that hit, I can have a problem with that real easy. So I have to watch it. And man, I'm sitting there one night and I'm just scrolling. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
And so, man, I started, that was kind of a thing. It's like, man, this is a very unhealthy thing for me to be doing because usually, I'm a big reader, man. I like to read. Right?
Yeah,
I like to research and stuff like that. So when I catch myself with a very, bad habit, like scrolling through Facebook, man, that night I immediately took all of the alerts off my phone.
Yeah.
I took them off of my homepage. That way, during the business day, I'm focused on what I'm supposed to be focused on.
Yeah.
And no distractions, right? So, man, these little things, that I do, they keep myself on point and focus is things that I've had to learn how to do over the year, because if you're like me and your phone lights up and it's beside, now that's the focus, right? So, man, it's like these things I do, phone face down, alerts off. I do these things that way I can stay, focused on the important stuff. So, man, I got a lot of people to reach out to me, and I might be a week getting back to them. I'm not focused on social media.
I'm the same freaking way, dude. And social media, like, I've gotten to the point where I just, man, people say engagement's like important to grow, but I'm like, dude, first of all, I wear every hat in my business.
Yeah.
Engagement takes a lot of freaking time, and I'm also doing content creation for all of it. But I just post and ghost. Like, I got something of value I want to put out there and share with the world, and I just put it out there. I don't really reply to comments. It's nothing personal. No. I just know if I get stuck in that loop, well, then it's consuming thing. And like, y'all don't see like the other things I still have to get done that day. Yeah. So I just, like, right now my season, I just that's what I have to do in order to get shit done, actually. Yeah. So yeah, dude, because I'm the same way, because I start replying to shit, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh, what's this? And what's that? And I'm like, fuck, dude, it's been an hour, because it flies by. Yeah.
You go down a rabbit hole real quick on things that, that's not important. Actually, I think that's a characteristic that really starts to separate, people that are successful, right? It's like they learn how to tune out the things that don't make you successful, and they're only focused on very specific things. They're intentional about the time that they spend.
Well, dude, it's like people talk about, people talk about politics or the world and all this stuff, right? And everybody's concerned about, like, oh my God, if this person gets voted for, this is going to happen. This is the end. This is the end. And so many people spend so much time focused on what they fear might come. At the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen the next day. And I had a friend ask me years ago, he's like, well, with everything going on in the world, like, how do you just stay so geared in? I said, because that's what I can control.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I can't make the decision. If whatever comes, I can adapt. I'll figure it out. But at the end of the day, I know I got to get up and go pursue my fucking dreams. Those people aren't going to do it for me. I have to do it. Yeah. So I'm going to stay focused on that, because what you think may come may or may never happen.
Yeah, man, I don't get wrapped up in the politics thing, man. It's just, I know we just went through an election cycle, which affects my business, actually. Election cycles in my line of work, it's impactful, right? There's always this downtrend during an election cycle. So knowing that over the years, we try to ramp up marketing and all of this other stuff. I'm laser focused on that. So we just go through an election cycle, and some people are like, oh my God, you're not worried about this. I'm like, listen, I'm so unworried about it. I can't control it. I'm going to focus on that of which I can control, and I'm going to make that as pristine as possible. So while you're focused on stuff you can't control, I'm making moves.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm trying to learn something new or meet a new person or just something to grow myself.
Exactly.
And you're focused on something you have zero control over.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
You know what, man? It's funny. It gets hard after you have a certain mindset to have, like, random, unintentional conversations. They drive me crazy, right? It's like, I want to talk about something that is impactful. And so, man, it starts that you find yourself having a hard time conversing with just anybody, right? Yeah. But when you're in a group of people, those people really start to align. It was funny, man. I did a hunting trip with my boys. Or no, actually, this is a solo trip that I did, a couple of months back. And immediately, like, man, I get out of my truck, and there's a guy that is a business coach for billionaires there, right? Yeah. So a random place to meet him, very unassuming. He's not dressed like a business coach would be. He's there for a weekend to be in the woods, to do the outdoors things, right? And immediately, me and him connect. Yeah. And me and him had a conversation about that. Like, we stay in touch now. So we have this conversation about it. And it's like, man, I feel like certain people can connect. And immediately we connected because we had that same mindset. We're both intentional about what we're trying to do. He definitely is not, engaging with the type of clients that he has if he's not intentional, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, man, as you change and you go down your journey, man, and you become, what you were, what you was destined to be, you have to evolve into that. And that changes. So your friend groups, the conversations, your interests, the things you do on the weekend, man, all of this stuff evolves. as time progresses, man, and that's how you become who you are. But you have to change, man, because you're not going to be interested in the same conversation you was having 5 years ago. If you're still interested in the same conversation you had 5 years ago, I'm not interested in the conversation.
Yeah, dude, that's a fact, man. Dude, I think back 5 years from now, and I'm just like, whoa, it's crazy. And then you realize like but in that growth, the cool thing is you're going to realize over time, just quicker and quicker, who you don't resonate with. Yep. And if we don't resonate, it's nothing against you. We just don't resonate.
We just don't vibe.
It's just not there.
Yep.
And like, I'm going to be able to identify that real quick. And that's a skill in itself, man, because you can waste a lot of time trying to connect with somebody that.
Well, man, I really love having business-minded conversations, right? So there's something that I've probably built 8, 10, 12 websites for other people, right? Just because I've got fairly decent at it.
I'm building a website for somebody else right now.
Well, I mean, man, listen, I really love doing that. It's definitely a skill set, marketing and branding and, structure and stuff like that. Man, I love helping, the next generation of entrepreneurs step into it, man. And so they don't need a handout. They just need a hand up, man. It's like the things that I struggle with, if there would have been somebody that kind of point me in the direction, I might have been a more impactful player sooner, right?
Yeah.
So, man, I love working with, with young entrepreneurs. Yeah. And, man, I've got some real success stories for some guys that I've engaged with, and it really made an impact for them.
That's cool.
Dude, when they win, I feel like I won, right? It's like just in some small way to play a part, in making somebody else's journey better. Man, that could be a whole career path for me.
Dude, hell yeah.
In my life. You know what I mean?
You never know how things may shift, man. I mean, that's something you find true joy out of. I think, just maintain the energy you got, man. Just keep moving forward. And I think the opportunities just arise when you're in the right place, And I think you talked about had that happen earlier, but it wasn't meant to.
Yeah.
I think you hit the catalyst you did when you were supposed to do that. And then that's when the shift was necessary, man. You know what I'm saying? So fucking keep crushing it, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I do want to get back, you got to finish anything?
No, we're good.
I do want to get to your story, just to, we're kind of closing towards the end of it. Mm-hmm. You were talking about just going all in yourself, essentially, and then you had that opportunity, that first opportunity with the guy that, you did the hoist and stuff for him.
Yeah.
And so that was a big shift in the trajectory. So take it from there.
So, going from that, that was really just the first big contract. From that point, I was able to hire a couple of guys and keep them focused on doing the work. And there's this weird limbo, right? It's this weird, awkward place as an entrepreneur where, you're bigger than a one-man show, but not big enough to really expand. And how do you deal with that, right? It's like there's not enough work to justify bringing somebody on, but you can't get more work if you're doing all of the aspects of the business as well, right?
Yeah.
And so, man, that was kind of a hard season right there. And man, I've really just pushed through, with work ethic, man. It's like I just worked harder, man. It got harder, and I just worked harder
for sure.
And eventually, I found myself with the right people around me for that particular season, right? And man, we really hit a growth spurt. And 2018 was a phenomenal year, man. It's like we more than doubled the size of the company. Without doubling the size of the employees, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And it was the first time that I'd actually made money. Well, little did I know that 2019 was about to just absolutely, blindside me. We go into March of 2019, and Toyota opened. They bought a mom and pop crane company locally here in Nashville. And dude, within 3 months, they hired all my employees, all of my technicians, man. Like it was a mass exodus. Everybody left for the money, for the insurance, for the benefit, for all of the right reasons, man. Right?
Yeah.
But it almost destroyed me.
Yeah.
And man, it's like I woke up one morning and I've got a resignation and another. And I'm just watching everybody on the team just leave, right? And I'm like, man, what the hell am I gonna do? Like this could be it, right? I cried around literally laid around and cried around for a couple of days. And I'm like, you know what? This shit ain't it. And I'm not done. And I put my boots back on and I went back to fucking work.
Yeah, it's another test.
Man, I drove down to Chattanooga the next week. I was sitting on the couch looking for an apartment in Chattanooga. I had a technician that decided to stay in Nashville, and we were just as big in Chattanooga as we were in Nashville at the time. I was actually looking for a brick and mortar in Chattanooga. And so I'm on the couch one night and I'm looking for an apartment down there. And my wife just starts crying. She's like, I can't believe that you're actually looking for another place to live. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not doing this. Screw it. I'm not doing this. I called everybody the next day, all of the clients the next day. I said, listen, I got to come and see you. And I did an apology tour. I showed up to every job site for every contract that we had. And I looked the maintenance manager in the eye and I said, listen, man, my shit's falling apart. All my technicians are leaving. You need to find another service provider because when you call, I'm not going to be able to be here.
Yeah.
And they said, consistently across the board, Chris, thank you for being man enough to come and look me in the eye. Like everybody appreciated the level of respect that I put on the situation.
Yeah, it's a situation there's nothing you can do about it at that moment.
Nothing. So the technicians leave. The customers find somebody else. When I get rebuilt, when I get my shit back together, they're locked in. Like a lot of the maintenance managers have already bounced. They're not even at the same places anymore. So the relationships have died, right? They're withered on the vine, man. It was too much time. So I couldn't just go back and, and do that again. And so in 2019, I lost like a big chunk of my business and I started another one. I took on a partner and I started another business, which is kind of a spinoff. It gave me the opportunity to work inside of the same customer base, just expand the service offering. Mm-hmm. And man, we grew and scaled the shit out of that business. I mean, at this time, I already have 4 or 5 years experience under my belt. 4 years experience under my belt with business, sales, and marketing. When I started the secondary company, man, we went from scratch to something pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
And we look back, and I remember like 3 years in, we got an offer from private equity. And I looked at the valuation. I'm like, shit, might cash this thing out and pivot towards real estate or something. And, man, I prayed over that a little bit. And I'm like, man, that's not what I want to do, man. I really like what I'm doing. And apparently we're doing pretty good at it. If you look at the P&L, like we just killed it, man. We just had a solid ass year. And so I decided to keep it. It still turned out not to be the path I was supposed to be on, like during one of the breaks, we kind of delved into that a little bit. I had a bad experience with a partner and with some other people inside of the business. And this was just recent. And it's forced another change in direction.
Yeah.
Every time that one of those happen, man, like it's the end of the world when you first find out, like, day one, when you realize that something big is about to change. Sometimes that can be hard to take because you don't have control over the change.
Yeah.
But more and more when stuff like that happens, man, I'm becoming a little more comfortable with just being okay with the change, right? Yeah. Not being scared. In order to do that, I have to believe more and more in myself.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, so I feel like at this stage in the game, I've got enough knowledge that no matter what comes across my path, if it is what I am meant to do, I can't fail.
Yeah.
Right. So I become a little more or a little less concerned with what the future holds, man, and just believe in myself a little more. It's like, So, man, all of those ups and downs and ebbs and flow, I couldn't imagine what my life would be like now if I didn't have those experiences, right?
Yeah, and, it doesn't mean you're not going to face things like you did recently, right? But, like, obviously there's opportunity in it. And if, you think back to, like, especially the seasons of where, like, it was just relentless hell you had to go through. But you're able to handle these situations that come up every so often a lot better because of that shit you went through, right?
Yeah.
You're in a totally different place. Had you not had to go through any kind of hardship, this, a lot of people, this could be like business ending.
Man, I'm a firm believer that I think one of the biggest limitations for success is your ability to tolerate stress, right? It's like if you got a low tolerance for stress, entrepreneurship might not be your thing because, man, if you can't handle getting your ass whooped and standing up and turning around the corner and getting hit again, might not really be your thing. And those are very stressful moments, right? But man, if you got a high tolerance level for that and you can just stand up one more time and you get knocked down, it might be your thing. And you might be able to go out and accomplish big things, man. I think there's two types of people, some that should not have and they did, and some that didn't and should have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to see more of the people that should have. I hope that things that I do say inspire people to take that chance if it is what's meant for them. And if it's not, at least they know it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I got so much respect for the people that tried and failed.
Dude, oh yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, at the end of the day, you can say you went all in on yourself. And at the end of the day, truthfully, most people can't say they bet all on themselves at some point in their life.
No.
And to me, that's something worth holding up.
Listen, I couldn't imagine being on my deathbed and looking back and being like, man, I feel like I left something on the table, dude. When I slide across the finish line, it's going to be on flat tires, busted windshield wipers missing and shit. It's going to be a raggedy-ass hoopty, man. I'm going to leave it all on the table, dude.
Dude, I feel you there, bro.
100%.
I love it, man. I'm right there. I'm getting fired. Dude, let's break some shit. Dude, like that amps me up, though, because I'm right there with you, man. Let's go all fucking out. And people won't get it. And they'll be like, it's just so much. Like, you're taking on so much stress. And it's like, fuck yeah, I am. Yeah. Add more. Come on, bring it. Like, and people will sit there and tell you that it's too much for you to handle, but only you know. you know, because people will look from the outside in, and they'll be like, oh my gosh. And it's like, hey,
you know, man, I think it's so crazy. You know, when Steve Harvey of all people, man, I was a few months away from launching the business, right? I already knew I was going to do it, and I wasn't on the fence, man. I was 100% locked in, and I was nervous and I was scared. And Steve Harvey come on the radio for one of his morning shows, and he said one thing that has stuck with me and always will. He said, when your dreams are bigger than your fears, you have no choice but to jump.
Yeah.
And I'm like, perfect time for me to hear that with what I've got going on in my mind right now. And I'm like, shit, man, I would rather jump and hit the fucking ground than not have the guts to jump.
Yes.
Like, not jumping is my biggest fear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine getting to the finish line and be like, damn, I wish I would have took that risk. Fuck that. Look, I would rather say, you know what, I took the risk and I got my ass busted.
Yeah.
Than to say, man, I wish I would have believed in myself enough to take that chance.
Oh, dude. And I've heard that from a lot of people, man. Yeah. I wish I would have done that. You know, and it's just like, damn, I don't know. I feel for you because like I don't ever want those words to come out of my mouth.
Well, you know, man, when you're trying to build yourself up to take that first leap, people with good intention tell you everything that may go wrong. They don't mean to be negative about it, but it helps justify the reason why they didn't take their own risk.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So you got to be real careful about sharing your dream with just anybody because some people are just like balloon poppers, man. As soon as they see the thing full, they want to pop it.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, when you're having the right conversation with the wrong person, the outcome's not going to come out to what you need it to, man. So being intentional with the type of people that you surround yourself with and the conversations that you have at every stage in life, I think is very important. You know, whether you're, you know, an aspiring entrepreneur or somebody that's, you know, at the executive level, it really doesn't matter. Like all of those people are having intentional conversations, right?
Yeah.
And people absolutely steal your dream, man. You got to be careful who you share your dream with because it's your dream. It's not their dream. They're not meant to see it. It's for your eyes only, man.
Yeah, and because of that, they're going to try to take it and they're going to crash and burn in some way, as an individual or just overall.
And I don't think they really mean to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they don't see it. But, you know, man, once you surround yourself and you start having different type of conversations, when that presents itself, you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
But that just comes with discernment and wisdom, you know, having the conversations, right? Swimming in the Kool-Aid and all of that stuff.
Exactly, dude. God, it's so well said, and it's been so relevant throughout my journey too, man. You know, it's, you know, and things don't happen on the timeline you want them to. You're going to have expectations in your head, dude. And like people are going to want to be a part of it because they see it. But then like when you don't meet their timeline, they fucking be like, all right, I'm out, you know? And it's like, you find yourself still going and you're like, damn, this person's gone. This person's gone. You're like, yo, like, am I all alone in this? You know that feeling.
So that has plagued me throughout my career. It's like, man, I would speak life into my vision. So, you know, I'd get my team together and I'd talk about these big things that we're going to do, these grandiose visions that I have at night, these dreams and, you know, what I want to turn us into. And they're like, hell yeah. And then it don't happen in 3 months and they're like, hell no. It's like, damn, dude, we just started.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's plagued me, right? Like getting people around me really jazzed up about something that takes more time to accomplish than even I thought it was, because in my mind, I'm already there. Yeah. Dude, it's like by the time I've spoken, I've already executed, man. I'm already there. Yeah. I'm just trying to get you to catch up with me.
Yeah.
And so that don't always work in my favor, man. Sometimes I get people over-ginned up about something without really being able to articulate the realistic aspect of, hey, this is going to take years to be able to accomplish. And, you know, man, I think I've spent the last 10 years to get to where I'm at, so that these next few years will be what they are, right? It's like, man, we really got some good things going on right now. I'm going to tell you, man, it was weird. About a year ago, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and I told him, I said, man, you know what? I feel like I don't have the right people around me for this season of life. And he's like, well, what do you mean by that? I said, man, I don't know. I feel like I got a rope over my shoulder, and I'm dragging everybody with me. And it shouldn't be like that, right? Like if you've got a team and you got the right team, there should be some synergy there, right? Like you should be able to speak vision. You should be able to articulate the vision in such a way that the people around you will help pull on the same end of the rope, right? And I didn't feel like that. I felt like everybody was pulling against me. And going through that season of last year, man, weird things started to happen where relationships that I had in my life for a really long period of time started to separate and go different places. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a very loyal individual, right? And I'm appreciative. When people does something good for me, I don't forget that, right? Yeah. It's like, man, I pay attention to how people treat me at times when they didn't have to do something good for me.
Yeah.
And so that instills a sense of loyalty in me. Well, at the end of the day, you got to be loyal to yourself as well. You got to be loyal to your dreams. And sometimes you got to separate from relationships that feel good for relationships that grow you.
Yeah.
Right? It ain't all about how you feel, man. You gotta get outside of the comfort zone, man. And sometimes you got to walk away from relationships in order to grow, because that season of life with that person or individual is over with. And so this last year, man, it's like I've had some people that's been in my life for a long period of time, and they're not now. I'm thankful for the season that I had with them.
Dude,
I learned. I hope that God, they learned. I hope that we all are better off for the time that we spent together. I'm thankful. I'm not bitter. I'm not mad. I'm just gone.
Man,
I'm gone, man. Like, I'm off. It's like the dream continues. I've just got to do it with a different group. And so, man, right now, I feel like I've got the best team that I've ever had. And September of last year, it was all falling apart. And it's like, it just turned around that fast. And right now, the vision is so clear that everybody on the team gets it, man. And it's allowed me to move in a different fashion. For the first time, I actually feel like I'm working on the company instead of in the company.
Man.
And for the first time, I don't feel like the people in the company expect me to do anything but work on the company, right? It's like, man, I've had people on my team before, and it's like, well, if he would be out here helping us, well, man, who's running the business? Who's doing the sales and the marketing and having the conversations with the customers and dealing with the objections and the disputes and, the contracts and all of the shit that happens on the back end of the business, man. So I would work myself to death because I didn't want my team to feel like I wasn't working hard enough.
Yeah.
And now I've got a team that's like, listen, we got this, man. You get out there and focus on that.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make us all better. And so, man, I had to go through all of these relationships, all of the ups and downs in order to end up with a team that believes in me as much as I believe in me. And I think everybody on the team does right now, man. And that is such a great environment to be in. And so
I'm sorry, you're gonna be fired up because like I am in this season. I am in this transition. Like, dude, no shit. The last 3 years has been not even only like even the separations that have happened. I've had to mentally separate.
Yeah.
Like I had a list of people. I ended up having to burn the list. It was my trader list. I had to put myself on there because Joe, you need to forgive yourself for allowing these people to cloud your mind. This has kept you from moving forward at your full potential.
Yeah.
And so it's been a 3-year journey just in this space of like holding on to shit I didn't need to. Yeah. And then realizing like now people are like, it's my whole circle is completely changing.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit. Like I told you, my wife said, Joe, it feels different.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing, man. And even then I reached out to some people. I'm talking a couple of years and be like, just so you know, thank you for, I had nothing else, not trying to, I hope you're doing well, but thank you for helping me grow and my brand grow up until the point we parted ways. And then thank you for helping me grow as a person since then.
Yeah.
Because in reality, all these people, those relationships fall apart. Every one of them taught me a lesson.
Absolutely.
That I needed to fix something within myself in order to let them go. Yeah. But it's freed me so much. And now, right, that vision becomes so much more clear. You feel comfortable. Like I said, the transition that may be coming up for me, I know it's the right one.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful thing, man. And I'm like, dude, you saying that, like, I just wanted to scream like 5 times. He kept going, but I'm just like, oh my God, dude, like listening to you and hearing that, like I'm currently in a place of that right now. And it's just super positive to hear from you and your experience and also know that's where I'm at. And tell me, this is something I had to remember though. I wanted to remind you of this when you first started talking about that. You felt like you had this rope and you were pulling people. Man, a friend said this to me a friend said this to me a couple years ago. Be a lighthouse, not a tugboat. And I was like, damn.
That's good.
The lighthouse stays strong,
good,
man. And it brings that light.
Yep.
And the people are going to come that direction. But when you're the tugboat, man, that's going to wear you down.
Absolutely, man. It's exhausting when you wake up every day and you work for something and it seems like no matter how hard you work, it just gets a little further outside of your grasp. And it's like, what do you do with that, right? When you're going through a season like that, man, it's very confusing because there's nobody coming to save you, man. It's like you got to figure that shit out.
Yeah,
right?
Hell yeah.
Like there's no saving grace here. There's no great white hope coming for you. It's like, man, you got to thug that out, man. You really got to dig in and reflect on yourself, man. And that's what you'll find out if you got what it takes to push through to the other side. It don't take long to find out if you got the grit.
Dude, it's been a killer time. Obviously, we've been recording for a while, so we need to cut this out. I'd love to keep talking to you. Maybe one of these days, after you this season in your business, and like when you get down the road, like just recircle back around.
Absolutely.
Because I think, you know, you and I are going to have some kind of conversation to have, and it's going to be impactful and it's going to be high energy. Yeah. So I think I don't doubt that. So I would love to bring you back. Is there anything else you want to touch on with your journey real quick, you know, to kind of finish off? Or,
you know, man, I think one of the things that I'm getting prepared for in the season of life. Look, I've helped, you know, a handful of young entrepreneurs with websites or marketing or just advice or whatever, and that's something that I really enjoy doing, man. So, you know, one thing I'm trying to be intentional about is being positive for those around me, right, and speaking life into them. You know, there's a lot of people that nobody's ever told them, man, you know, you can't accomplish your dreams. Nobody's ever told them that. Like, hey, you know what, you're good enough that you can go pursue your dreams, and even if you fail, you're still okay, right? It's like that don't make you a failure because you didn't succeed at one thing. Yeah, it makes you a failure if you don't succeed at anything. You just got to keep standing up and try, man. So, hell yeah, you know, man, I'm hoping that, you know, something in this next season of life will put me in front of or get me an opportunity, you know, to really help, especially with like you know, inner city kids or at risk youth, man. I really didn't have that guidance when I was young, and it wasn't from lack of trying, man. I had great parents. I had, you know, I had a good childhood and all of this stuff. It's not that. I was just wired different, and there wasn't a lot of people that could handle that level of intensity that I brought to the table. I've always been an intense individual, man. Yeah. So if I'm going in a direction, I'm going wide ass open, dude. If it's in the wrong direction, it's just in the wrong direction. But I'm going there 100 miles an hour, you know. And so I just hope that, you know, some of the experiences that I've had and what will lead me to say something that will actually spark something in somebody so that they will see, you know, that there's a potential, man, that they can do it, right? I'm certainly not the kind of guy that I ever thought would be, you know, living the life that I am right now with the things that I've accomplished or the people that I've met or the people that I associate with now. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I know some really cool people, man. Yeah, dude. You know? And so I just want to be a positive influence. That's it, man. You know, I hope that the things that I go through shine a little light and let other people know that it's okay, man, you know, because I got to where I am because I failed a lot.
Well, dude, I love that. And you might have answered this question I have for you because I ask everybody this question. And like that's very well said. And I think you are exactly what you desire to be. You are that. I just want you to know you're fulfilling that role, man. So props to you, dude. You're a very positive influence, man. You're a person that a lot of people can look up to. And I hope a lot of people see this because it can be life-changing for some, man, because a lot of people don't think they think they've done so much wrong that they can't change. It's just who they are. Guess what, dude? You can wake up tomorrow and take a step in a different direction. It's still part of who you are, but you don't have to be them anymore. Yeah. You know, and but I do got to ask, what is your relentless pursuit?
You know, man, my pursuit is I want to see what I can accomplish, right? I want to know what my limit is. I've not hit my limit. I'm not even close to being capped, dude. Like I'm still in growth mode right now. Yeah. Like I can't even, I'm not even concerned with where the finish line is. I'm really focused on the grind right now and just build as much value into me so that I can turn around and add value to those around me. To me, that's the biggest flex, right? Is to possess something of value that is good enough that it improves the lives of those around you, right? So the more I grow, the more the people around me grow. Yep. So my pursuit is that, man. I want to see what it is that I can accomplish, right? I want to have an organization that people look forward to coming to work every day to be a part of, right? Where they're almost as passionate about it as I am. It'll be hard for anybody to bring that same level of intensity to it because it is my dream from my eyes, right? But you know what, man? I want to be impactful. I want to make a difference. I want for people's lives to be better because they come into contact with me.
Hell yeah, man.
And so that's a big challenge, right? Because that involves the conversations, the appearance, the this, the that, right? Everything that you do affects that. And so I want to be very intentional about building myself up. I want to be lethal, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want to be a fucking action player. When the shit hits the fan, I want people to say, damn, man, where's Chris at? You know what I mean? Yeah, of course. And so, and then I want to be able to pass along the grit that it took to make me a problem solver like that, right?
For sure.
And so, man, it's, you know, there's I believe it was John C. Maxwell's, you know, coined the phrase. He's like, he wants to create leaders who create leaders, right? And John C. Maxwell for leadership, man. I love some of his books, man. I love the voice. I love listening to his audiobooks, man. He's just got a voice I could listen to forever.
Yeah.
And the stories are so freaking impactful, man. So, man, watching guys like that has just made such a positive impact on so many, I just want to leave this place I want to leave it better than when I found it. You know what I mean? And not just for my kids and for my family. I want to do that for everybody that I can come into contact with. You know what I mean? I want to be a powerful individual that uses his influence for something good. You know what I mean? So I just want to be an action player, man. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but I know that I'm nowhere close to where I'm going to end up, and I'm really having a lot of fun on the journey to get there. You know what I mean?
I love it, dude. Well, dude, you've made a positive impact on me today, and I want you to know that. So you started there, and I'm stoked to get your story out, man. And that's a perfect Relentless Pursuit, man. I'm excited to see your journey. I'm excited to stay in touch and see what you make happen, man. I think you're gonna. It's, I say this all the time. I'm just getting started.
Yeah,
absolutely. And just like you're just getting started, bro. So let's keep rocking and rolling.
Absolutely, man. Excited to see your growth as well.
I appreciate that, my man. Hey, it was a pleasure.
All right, big guy.
Till next time.
All right, man. See you guys.
Good shit, dude.
Yep.